So the problem statement here is determine the forced response for the system described by the difference equation. Okay, forced response is been asked. So in the forced response, we need to make initial conditions 0. Remember that I have told yesterday. In natural response, input is 0. Okay. In forced response, initial conditions are set to 0. What are initial conditions? Y of -1, y of -2. These are initial conditions. Okay. Before giving input, what is the output? That is initial condition. So in the natural response, this will be there, and in the forced response, your initial conditions will be set to 0. This is for natural response. Input is 0. Forced response, these will be 0. So with that note, we'll solve today's problem. So let me take one note. So the problem here is y of n minus 5 by 6 plus 1 by 6. Y of n minus 5 by 6 y of n minus 1 plus 1 by 6 y of n minus 2 equal to x of n. Okay, and x of n is equal to 2 to the power n u of n. X of n is given as 1 by 2 to the power n u of n. For this we need to find out forced response. Forced response means y of -1, y of -2 are set to 0. Whereas your inputs, when you write, that is, say y of n is converted to z transform means y of z, this will be minus 5 by 6 y of -1 plus z inverse y of z. Okay, this is the answer you will get for this one, right? In that, this is set to 0. So forced response is when initial conditions are set to 0, initial conditions equal to 0, and output is only because of input. Okay, this is called as forced response. So we were calculating the forced response. That means what? Initial conditions are set to 0 and output is only because of input. Okay, so considering this one, now we'll rewrite the equation. So whenever you come across this term forced response, you need to understand this. Y of -1, -2 are set to 0. Initial conditions, that is, these y of -1, -2 are initial conditions, that is 0, and output is only because of input. Okay, now using this we can write the equation plus 1 by 6 y of n minus 2, not plus. Okay, equal to what? X of n. What is x of n given as? X of n is 1 by 2 to the power n u of n. So it is equal to 1 by 2 to the power n u of n. Okay. 1 by 2 to the power n, u of n is the result what you get. So here, now applying the Z transform, what we are going to find out? We are going to find out, remember that, we are going to find out forced response. Whether you find impulse response or forced response, sorry, natural response or forced response, it is nothing but output y of n only. Okay, that's why you cannot see here ratio of x of n, h of y of n as h of n and all. Forced response ಮತ್ತೆ natural response ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it is nothing but y of n only. Okay, in two conditions already I have told. Okay, natural andre when you set you set the input to 0. Forced means initial conditions are set to 0. Okay, so we are finding out forced response now. Applying Z transform, y of z minus 5 by 6 into the brackets. Z transform for this one we are going to get as y of minus 1 plus z inverse y of z. Okay, plus 1 by 6 y of minus 2 plus z inverse y of minus 1 plus z inverse square y of z. So Z transform of this one. We are discussing unilateral Z transform. That's why we are getting these terms. Equal to what? Equal to Z transform of this. Equal to Z transform of this. So let me write it. Z transform of this is 1 divided by 1 minus 1 by 2 Z inverse. Okay. So according to our forced response rule, in forced response, initial conditions are set to 0. What are initial conditions? This is initial condition set to 0. This is also initial condition set to 0. This is also initial condition set to 0. So with setting these to 0, we can now rewrite the equation for y of z, correct? Y of z minus 5 by 6, this term, z inverse y of z plus 1 by 6, these two terms are 0, z inverse square y of z, okay, equal to 1 divided by 1 minus 1 by 2 z inverse. Okay, here now y of z is a common. If I take that out, this would be plus 1 by 6 z to the power minus 2 equal to 1 divided by 1 minus 1 by 2 z inverse. So y of z is equal to 1 divided by 1 minus 5 by 6 z inverse plus 1 by 6 z inverse square 1 minus 1 by 2 z inverse. Okay, this is our y of z. Now you know how to solve it using the quadratic equation rule, ax square plus bx plus c. So you can write that. So this is your a, this is your b, and this is your c. Okay, use that and you will find out the roots as, let me copy it from here. 1 minus 1 by 3 z inverse. Okay, I made a mistake there by taking 1 by 2 to the power n. Okay, we can do for that as well, but for the given problem it is 2, not 1 by 2. So it should be 2 here. Okay, so everywhere we need to change that. What I have said, this is 2 1 minus 2z inverse. Okay, so given question is not 1 minus 1 by 2. I will change it to that 1 minus 2 into z inverse. Is that clear? Now the roots what we have got here for this one is 1 minus 1 by 3 z inverse and 1 minus 1 by 2 z inverse, and this 1 minus 2 z inverse was already there. Okay, 1 minus 2 z inverse, this is 1 divided by, correct? So this is your y of z. Now applying the partial fractions, you can solve it. Applying partial fractions, we are able to solve it, and we get y of z is equal to 2 by 5 minus 1 and 8 by 5. 2 by 5 minus 1 plus 8 by 5. 1 minus 1 by 2 z inverse, 1 minus 2 z inverse. Okay, so these are the terms you will get in the y of z equation. Now taking inverse z transform, so you can see the second part of the solution. Once you get to know what you have to set to 0, that is y of minus 1 minus 2 or x of n, whatever you want to set to 0, after that it is same as finding out the inverse z transform. That's why I have told these problems are uh, same, but only at the initial point there is a difference what you will calculate. Okay, so y of n is equal to, now inverse z transform, 2 by 5 1 by 3 to the power n u of n minus 1 into 1 by 2 to the power n u of n. So this term. Similarly, plus 8 by 5 2 to the power n u of n. Since the LTI system is assumed to be causal, we are going to find out this as a forced response. In forced response, what we have assumed? Initial conditions set to 0. Natural response, again I am telling, natural conditions means x of n is set to 0, x of n minus 1 is set to 0, or any form of input is set to 0. In natural response, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎರಡು ಥರದ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನಿಮಗೆ. ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನ್, ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನ್ ಮೈನಸ್ 1 ಎಲ್ಲಾನು 0 ಅಂತ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ದೆನ್ ಯು ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು z ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಇಟ್ using inverse z transform, applying partial fractions and all. Is that clear? Now let us see what we have got is correct or not. So this is the result you get. Final question for this kind of problem is find the impulse response of the system described by the following difference equation. In this, we are asked to find out impulse response. Impulse means what? input is a impulse, so we need to replace input by delta n. Then y of n will be replaced by h of n. So this is the very important aspect in this problem. It is very easy problem. Only thing you need to make note of it. Impulse response you are going to calculate. Okay, and for impulse response, the initial conditions will be 0. It is a forced response. Impulse response is always forced response because you are giving input as a delta of n. Okay, so this is a particular kind of problem. There is only one problem to solve. Y of n plus 1 by 2 y of n minus 1. The question is y of n plus 2 into y of n minus 1 2 times x of n. So this is the problem. For this we need to find impulse response. Impulse response means it is h of n. H of n is been asked when x of n is equal to delta n. That is the meaning. Okay. So what we have to do now? We have to write y of n as h of n plus 2 into h of n minus 1 2 times delta n. So this is the impulse response. Okay, for this problem only, because he has given the for him what is the impulse response of this particular equation. So now let us convert it to z domain, that is applying z transform. We will get h of z plus 2 into h of minus 1 plus z inverse h of z equal to 2. Delta n z transform is 1. So 2 into 1 will be 2. So for this z transform is this one, correct? So what is the initial condition? Initial condition will be 0 when we apply the impulse response. So impulse response ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ delta n apply ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. So initial condition is 0. So we'll make it 0. That's why we'll get h of z plus 2 into z inverse h of z equal to 2. That's why h of z 1 plus 2 z inverse equal to 2. H of z is equal to 2 divided by 1 plus 2z inverse. This is the answer you will get. Now you know that how to find out impulse response h of n. It is simple. You just take the z inverse. It is inverse z transform. H of n is equal to 2 minus 2 to the power n u of n. So this is the answer you are going to get. This is your impulse response. When x of n is equal to delta n, this is the answer you are going to get. So this describes the system given. Okay, so you can see here. I think I have made a mistake here. Is there any mistake? Okay, I had taken this as 2, but it is 1 by 2 in the question. Not an issue. Okay, here. So only thing that multiplication factor changes, but the method is same. Is that clear? Now let us move on to the last part of it, last 1 or 2 problems. So stability and causality. Why am I solving these problems? You might ask this question. We have already completed, but there are problems which we need to solve. Okay, wait for a second.